How many languages do you think are spoken in the United States? Over 30? Higher. Over 100? Keep going. You'd probably be surprised. It's estimated that over 350 languages are spoken in America. Yeah, no, 350. If there's a little-known language spoken in an obscure region of the world, you can almost bet it's spoken somewhere in the U.S. Telugu? Of course. Swahili? Why not? As a result, the United States is one of the most linguistically diverse nations in the world. This perfectly illustrates the sheer scale of multiculturalism in the U.S., with these languages literally coming from all over the world. It's no secret that English, Spanish, or more recently Chinese are the most spoken languages in America, but the vast number of other languages are especially fascinating. The huge diversity of languages in America is a reflection of its colorful history and its ever-changing patterns of immigration. It also very clearly demonstrates how languages can evolve, with an original language giving birth to other similar languages, each having its own unique language characteristics. But that being said, 350 seems like a lot, but when we break it down, we start to get an idea of how these languages can add up. It's important to note that there are approximately 150 Native American languages spoken throughout North America. Oklahoma, New Mexico, South Dakota, and Alaska are among the states with a particularly high Native American population. For languages that originated outside of America, let's look at the most commonly spoken languages in American households. Not surprisingly, English and Spanish top the list. But Spanish is spoken at home in over 41 million households. This gives America the world's fourth largest Spanish-speaking population, behind only Mexico, Colombia, and Argentina. Next on this list is Chinese, and it's here that we already start to see several variations within one language. There are at least 7 types of the Chinese language that are widely used, with Mandarin being the most recognized and the one that's used in both the US and China. The next most spoken is Tagalog from the Philippines, and rounding out the top 5 is Vietnamese. Also widely spoken in American homes are Arabic, French, and French Creole, German, Russian, and Korean. What should be immediately apparent is the strong prevalence of Asian languages now being spoken in America. This is a clear reflection of how changes in immigration patterns directly affect the languages used in a particular country. America's ever-steady waves of immigration have resulted in quite the mixing pot of languages. And when we look at the variations within such a prevalent language as Chinese, we can begin to understand how the languages add up. If each language has its own offshoots and dialects, the people speaking that particular version of a language migrate to the United States. 250 seems pretty doable. For example, Arabic differs widely depending on the location. Common forms of Arabic include Egyptian, Eastern, Gulf, Maghrebi. A person from Iraq is more likely to speak Eastern Arabic, while someone from Morocco would speak Maghrebi. Vietnamese speakers will usually opt for Hanoi, Hue, or Saigon Vietnamese. However, within these main variations exist yet other dialects. If we look at regions throughout the world that are separated into distinct ethnic groups, then we can start to picture how languages throughout the world, and indeed America, start to add up. Southern Asia and parts of Africa in particular have multiple regions with very specific languages that have evolved from a main original language. Here are examples of other languages spoken in America, including some that you might not be overly familiar with. Hindi, Italian, Polish, Portuguese, Japanese, Yiddish, Persian, and Greek are all common languages that we'd expect to find in the most major urban areas throughout the United States. Then we start getting into such diverse languages as Pennsylvania, Dutch, Tamil, Serbian, Telugu from southern India, Amharic from Ethiopia. As you'd expect, the major urban areas of America have the most diversity in languages spoken. This is especially the case for California, the Pacific Northwest, and much of the eastern seaboard. America has a long history of varied immigration patterns and territorial conflicts. These have all contributed to the huge range of languages currently spoken today. Even before European settlement took place, America was very much a polyglot nation. There were over 300 languages spoken by Native Americans throughout the United States. As the onset of colonization, the European languages took hold, with English being one of several that were favored by the early settlers. When America gained its independence, there was already a considerable number of non-English languages being spoken. At that time, 20% of Pennsylvania spoke German, and a quarter of the nation's population spoke a language other than English. A significant number of people also spoke languages from African countries as well: Dutch, French, Swedish, and Polish. During the 19th century, America's territories expanded, bringing with them new ethnicities, cultures, and languages. For example, in 1803, the Louisiana Purchase resulted in America doubling in size, in a mass expansion to the west. And in 1848, the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo ended the war with Mexico, which saw Mexico hand over more than half of its territories. The acquisitions of Alaska and Hawaii further added to America's growing eclectic blend of ethnicities. America's initial immigrants were predominantly from the British Isles and Western Europe. They were either suffering from famine, dire crop failure, increasing taxes, or a serious shortage of land and jobs. Many were also simply drawn to the U.S. because of what it offered. That golden word, opportunity. People wanted land to farm, and America had a lot of it. People wanted jobs, and America had plenty of that. America was growing and prospering. It offered a genuine chance at starting a new life, as it still does today. Throughout the 18th and 19th centuries, huge numbers of immigrants caused America's population to soar. It increased at an astonishing rate, as around 30% every decade, going from 5 million people in 1800 to 75 million people by the end of the century. The initial wave of immigrants was largely from Ireland, the United Kingdom, and Scandinavia. Towards the end of the 1800s, a further rush of immigrants came, this time from Europe. People came from Italy, Poland, Ukraine, Russia, Germany, Spain, Portugal, bringing with them a plethora of languages and dialects. Immigration to America was stunted in the first half of the 20th century by global conflicts. However, at the end of World War II, the flow of immigrants picked right back up. Again, the initial source of immigrants was from a war-ravaged Europe. This all changed in 1965 when President Johnson signed the groundbreaking Immigration Act. This saw the end of the national origins formula, an immigration policy geared towards favoring immigration from Western and Northern European countries. With the Immigration Act, people from Asian, Middle Eastern, South American countries were all now given ample opportunities to start lives in the United States. With them came languages that were previously non-existent in America: Farsi, Khmer, Hmong, Lao, Arabic, and Urdu. Since the 1970s, American society has become distinctly multicultural and linguistically diverse as a special direct result. More than 20% of Americans speak a language other than English at home. Of course, this rich diversity of languages isn't restricted to the United States. Almost a third of people in the United Kingdom identify as being bilingual, and more than 300 languages are spoken in Australia. Multicultural countries such as the United States make it possible for people not only to thrive in a free society, but also to preserve crucial parts of their identity and their culture. And everyone's culture begins with language.